In the 30 years since BAV was created, the London skyline here has changed immeasurably. The Shard and the Gherkin were probably only figments of planners' imagination. My name's David Roth from WPP and I'm chairman of BAV. And thank you very much indeed for joining us as we celebrate BAV's 30th anniversary. Now, we're standing on the rooftop of one of WPP's London campuses, and it's only a 2 or 3 minute drone ride as the drone flies to the heart of the world's financial capital, the City of London. Now, I don't know how many trillions of stocks and shares have been traded since BAV started 30 years ago, but what I do know empirically from the data that we have at BAV is that those companies that have invested in creating strong and valuable brands have delivered superior economic returns to their shareholders. Of course, over the past 30 years, the world has changed immeasurably. It's changed from a political perspective. It's changed from a social perspective. It's changed from the way in which technology is now a driver of almost everything that we do. It's also changed significantly from a social perspective as well. Who would have thought that only a few years ago we would all have been subjected right across the world to a global pandemic? Now, of course, brands have also changed over the course of those 30 years. They've changed in the way in which they need to speak to their consumers. They've changed in the way in which they use technology to enable them to create strong brands. And they've changed in the way in which they need to position themselves to a changing consumer right across the world. Now, one of the things that was true the very first day that BAV started, and is true today, that unlike any other brand measure, BAV not looks at a brand just in the narrow confines of the category that it operates in, but also in the context of the culture. And that's exceptionally important to give a holistic 360-degree view of the brand. And over those 30 years, BAV has been there to help brands understand changing consumers and the brand's landscape within culture. Now, one of the more recent additions to the London skyline is the iconic London Eye. So let's take a trip down there, and as we do, let's go back in time to when BAV was founded in 1993. Following the fall of the Iron Curtain, this was a period of relative prosperity and a time of huge advances in globalization. We saw the rise of electronics, especially cell phones, with Nokia, Ericsson and Motorola gaining on average about 30 points in brand strength between 1993 and 1997. BAV told us that more than 50% of the top 20 strongest brands in culture were media and entertainment brands, and predicted that a more connected world would lead to the rise of media and entertainment brands shaping our culture. Here's a look at how media brands dominated the global landscape. But BAV spotted that tech brands were starting to appear. And look at the strength of local TV brands. The TV brands were the strongest brands in over 10 markets. Leading TV brands were 5 times more regularly used than other brands. So, while we were absorbed in a TV culture, BAV recognised that another channel would become a hugely powerful medium that was beginning to emerge: mobile. So, in 4 short years, BAV saw technology sprinting out of the blocks and heading straight down the straights. As BAV had forecast, this was a decade of seismic changes. Globalization continued to spread as the internet and technology became part of our everyday lives and led to an amazing growth in emerging countries. But this was also the decade on the war on terror. But in the good news cycle, we saw the first moves towards equality, diversity, and minority representation, all helped and powered by the technological and communication revolution. And despite our fears that digital technology would melt down as we entered a new century, the world didn't stop at the stroke of midnight on December the 31st, 1999. The major agent of change was, of course, the internet. It changed the way we engage with the world and the way we shopped. Tracking consumer behaviour, BAV showed us that in 1999 only 30% of consumers purchased over the internet versus 86% shopping online in 2008. Just look at BAV stats for Amazon. Between 1999 and 2008, Amazon usage increased by 386%. Also, the way we met others, started relationships, and fell in love changed. The top 2 dating brands at the time, Match.com and eHarmony, grew their mass presence in culture by 5 times. Not to mention how we listened to music, as we carried 1,000 tunes in our pockets with our iPods. Google became a staple tool worldwide. Since 2001, Google grew its usage by 9 times. Technological connectivity and the internet meant that the world would truly become a global village. Through the BAV lens, we saw how the consumers knew more about everything: brand behaviours, institutions, politicians. The more we learned, the more disillusioned we became. And trust became far harder to earn and to keep. The good news was that the increase in global awareness started to inform the growing attitude to social responsibility. New technological connectivity helped feed political change faster than ever before, perfect examples being the Arab Spring and the Occupy movement. We had arrived in a new digital economy, a new world. With smartphones, over half of the world's population had regular access to the internet. The 2008 crash had huge impact. The amount of people who stated that their financial status got worse compared to a year ago doubled from 2008 to 2011, which had a huge impact on trust. In the banking sector, there was an average drop in trust of nearly 29%, while some individual banks' trust declined by over 40%. BAV saw consumer trust in brands was also badly shaken. There was an 18% decline in the amount of highly trusted brands around the world. With the rise of populism, we all started to care more, and that is good. We cared more about the planet, about each other, about what we bought and where we bought it. Social responsibility took on real meaning, and manufacturers and brands had to take notice. Purpose was gradually becoming a new watchword. And BAV showed us that post the 2008 financial mayhem, we were entering a period of strong economic growth and consumer confidence. Global GDP grew non-stop from 2010 to 2019. Talking of global, BAV best countries grew and grew over the years, with over 85 countries now in the study. BAV's unique report provides insights into markets and brands, both local and international, around the world, from China to India to South America and Europe. A key learning from BAV Best Countries 2018 was how the power of purpose impacted shopping behaviour. By the end of the period, the majority of consumers prioritised purposeful brands. Top social responsibility brands became 60% more loved compared to average brands. A tumultuous 4 years. COVID swept the planet and threatened to paralyse us all. But the indomitability of the human spirit, the pharmaceutical industry and technology came to the rescue. Pharmaceutical brands created life-saving vaccines in record time. We worked from home on our laptops and in our trackpads. Thank you, Zoom. When the Russia and Ukraine conflict came, a global energy crisis, inflation, and new countries applying to join NATO. In an anxious world, BAV saw purpose become even more a growing factor of our lives. and agile, fast-reacting brands became the winners in the post-COVID world. BAV observed and analysed changes in consumer behaviour post-COVID, including patterns of brand consumption, where and how we shop, and how people communicated with each other. Brands responded, and we saw an increase in brands being perceived as charming, friendly, and socially responsible. By gaining and solidifying trust, we saw how even typically commoditized pharma brands could grow during a health crisis. And now, in these times of geopolitical and economic uncertainty, good value is our North Star. Value is becoming more important to consumers in driving brand presence. We see the power of purpose shaping cultural movements. Social and cultural movements such as Me Too gain recognition and respect and passion, ranking top 1% of progressive and top 3% of daring brands. Globally, an action-packed 30 years and an action-packed 30 years for BAV. BAV has built an armoury of tools to help you get an ever-deepening understanding of your brand and the world it lives in. It takes 30 minutes to enjoy one revolution of the London Eye, and we've just had a quick glimpse of 30 years of BAV. What will the next 30 years bring? Well, who knows, but whatever tomorrow brings, BAV will be there, providing unique guidance and insights. Because WPP BAV is out there in a class of its own, enjoying the highest regard from leading academics, institutions, and thousands of us in the marketing community. That acclaim isn't just earned from the steady stream of data, analytics, and fresh marketing thinking and perspective that BAV brings, but crucially for an additional and unique contribution to the marketing mix. Only BAV provides the holistic and precise understanding of how brands blend in, stand out, and belong in culture around the world, which is why we at BAV say BAV is where brands meet culture.